as he's stopping these consecutive prompts here where he's stopping the video, you can see he's starting to think more about, well, maybe that guy doesn't really get it, or just reevaluating his statements. So just over the course of watching the video, again, he's sort of, qualifying his initial impression to the video, which I think is interesting. Any other thoughts on that?
I mean, I wonder whether they begin to realize that they're being forced into this artificial situation where they have to stop helping somebody because they have to go somewhere else, right? And all of a sudden they're finding the same constraints, right? Because this is, while this is more personal, it's sort of, it's like half personal, like I'll talk to you as long as I have time, but then I'm gone, right?
Right. So yeah, there's a matter of what influences that decision. For here, he said more about the fact that I need to check other.
Because I didn't see really the group take over that role. See, in the best of all possible worlds, the group would take over the role, and you could leave, but it still would be behaving like asking the interesting questions back and forth, as opposed to just stating what's true. Right? So there's a tendency for these people, for all people, to just say, well, this is true, as if that means, if you can say it's true, it means you understand it, which is not the same thing. Acquiescence is not understanding.
Are we supposed to be evaluating quiet TA or TA1's evaluation of quiet?
TA1's evaluation. So he actually was very explicit. Yeah. I have to get moving, right? I've got 6 other tables.
So what I'm interested in is right here, what he notices in the video, right, and how he responds to it, how he differentiates himself.
Yeah, and I like that he realizes that guy does not understand what's going on. He's just stopping talking.
Right. I'm not sure he ever says what if he would ask him. Well, I guess after this clip he says, I asked him what the significance of the force in the road was. And this is the this is the end of the video commentary. So at last he's deciding, well, here's what I do at this spot. That's what I asked him is, what would you do in this situation? Is it time to go, or what would you ask if you were the TA? So, and there's a lot said about, this is kind of a common thread, is there's a lot of diagnosis of this statement, the rope. And there'll be spots where the TAs really want to get in and say, I don't understand what he's saying, I want to understand what he's saying. And a lot of times they'd say, well, I think, a lot of times people think this, or yeah, this is like midway through, he says, people tend to think, oh, the rope is pushing you, so you don't necessarily think of the force. So he's kind of pulling it back to, he's trying to associate with a common misconception, perhaps, that he's experienced. So, but that's interesting itself, and I haven't really decided what to do with that, because a lot of instructors will spend a lot of time trying to sort of diagnose. I really want to understand what he's thinking, and they may not initially think to, well, if I were in the spot, I would ask him what he's thinking. So there's a lot that goes into that too. This is the last audio I have for this TA, but I did want to lay out, I said some of these points, but I sort of, in reading through this, I think this TA1 sort of makes somewhat relatively clear what he thinks that is good for a TA to do in the classroom. And primarily the TA should be clarifying. In fact, he says, you can answer that kind of question for students. Different, he's discriminating between types of questions that students ask that the TA can outright answer. Ones that are about the nature of the question, the TA can answer implicitly. Broader questions, more conceptual questions, the TA can't just answer for students. And he says, clarify the assignment, and not really much else, which I think is probably what you should be doing. The TA should be clarifying the assignment for students. I said it's only certain types of questions can the TA directly answer. The TA, about 2 minutes, he said, at least initially, is how long the TA should stay. And this is, inside of here is that there's other tables to see. There's other factors affecting my decision to stay or not. He wants students to justify, and he qualifies this by saying, once they've given you a valid justification, you tell them that's a good justification. And he says in there, you don't want, it's counterproductive for students to be unsure about what they're doing. If they're doing something right or wrong. If they're doing something right and not sure if they're doing it right, then it can be counterproductive. I thought that was interesting, too. And the TA should observe, and he says in there he doesn't want to jump in right away because we noticed that the fellow student helped the male student at one point. So he does say that TA should be observant and not always willing to be the first one. Now, so this is just a list of beliefs. I think these aren't all created equal, I think, and this is sort of starting to, how I'm trying to parse how the framework is. There's sort of, we can break these into how the TAs might, what do we consider a belief? The belief might be that TAs should clarify the assignment in LHLs. But, it might be that this is a good thing to do. It might be that I think this is good, but it's also hard to do. There's other interviews where TAs acknowledge that I know this is good. I know it's good to, I know this correct dialogue is good, but it's also hard. I didn't get it right away. It's difficult to do. So it's not just, I'm trying to approach this from beliefs not being just, this is what the TA, this is good to do, this is good to do, this is good to do, but this is good, but, value, sort of judgments over, if I, it may be more than just this is good to do, but this is difficult to do, or I think this is good, but that's sort of acknowledging constraints that affect decision making. I think it's good for the TA to be observant of the table, but there's other tables to see. So there's more, it's more than just that I think this is good, but there's other factors that affect my decision to do it. So this is sort of my first pass, just what I think I noticed, and we can sort of split these into different categories. Any other ideas? I've got another there's another TA in this list. This is actually one that I did present last fall, and it's a very different response. I do want to leave time that we can wrap up, but you read for yourself. This is a much shorter clip, but this I hope this might give you an idea of the variance in types of TA responses to these clips. Let me just play the first one because there's another TA.
TA kind of didn't say anything.
Okay.
Kind of, I don't know, didn't really, I guess, didn't really do very much. So I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to do, is just let them, talk it out, but I usually just, let them talk about it for, a little bit and then tell them, the right way to think about something.
Okay, so let them talk and then...
Seems like he let them go for a really long time, just kind of spinning their wheels. I don't know.
So that should give you an idea of how this TA is approaching this clip. And he is relating back to his own experience, but there's some hesitancy here that I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to do. He's sort of negatively responding to the fact that he lets them hang, as he calls it, spinning their wheels, I guess. But it's much less. There's much less confidence in the response than we saw with the initial TA. This actually does contrast. This is the same TA's response to the talkative TA. This is on the back of